if on, let's say, planet Zion, the governor Hoover Heaver has been kidnapped, leaving an uproar in the community. Now, if someone is flying next to the planet when it flashes on their screen in the cockpit, can they fly there, attempt to help, and see, the mess going on? Or is it more like, okay, it happened, skip the drama, now we get to see kind of the economic result and impact in the rest of the game? Okay, so breaking news reports will definitely have elements of the game that you will be able to go and respond to. It probably won't be as kind of like massive world breaking all the time where something happens and you all need to rush there, but it may open the door to an opportunity for you to go to a specific location and see what's going on, kind of like meet people on the street or kind of like pick up bits of information that can help lead you to other missions that are involved with it. You need to remember that once news breaks on kind of like a universal wide scale, that it's already probably happened and there's always probably a few things that have happened in between. So it may not mean you'll be able to go there and always see craziness happening right then and there, but there definitely will hopefully be a way to direct you towards locations where there might be jobs, there might be opportunities, there might be NPCs or other elements of the game like that you can go and interact with and hopefully create your own story from.
Yeah, hats off to Circus and Standy for bringing the Empire Report to life. It's been a lot of fun having that as part of ATV. I've been really enjoying watching them and helping to create them. So we'd definitely like to continue that on into the game. And we didn't do the little asterisk earlier, but everything that we say now is still in development and should be taken with a grain of salt as we're working for. But yeah, but like the kind of more procedural stuff most likely won't tie into news events. But if we have a big planned event, rather than just relying on mission boards or the normal job givers, it would be really neat to learn of a major outbreak or vandal attack or something like that of a large scale through hearing it on the news, and that cues players in that this is a location that if I get to, something's happening or something's going down, and can be a starting point for a lot of other side missions that could be interesting. So it'll definitely be something fun. Josh Kabosh asks, what are the narcotics going to be like in game? Can we consume and manufacture them, or is it purely a trade item? We've kind of been talking about how our various narcotics and medicines were going to work in the game, and it's something we have to develop a lot further with design. I mean, the Endeavor was a great first step in talking about, how that awesome science ship is going to tie into hospitals and creating medicine and stuff. We already have a great example of a light narcotic use. When you go to your fancy bar in your hangar and you drink some booze, you'll start seeing like your vision get all blurry and stuff. So I think that's kind of a first indicator of how we'd like to see narcotic use progress in the game, that if you go through the effort of taking a drug, it should have some fun, weird effect to some extent, and to what extent still has to be figured out. But I could see taking a stim that lets you have your run for a slightly longer time because you're all jacked up, and maybe then afterwards you crash out and can barely move or stuff like that. Or maybe it'll just be recreational drugs that make things go crazy for a little bit. That could be really interesting too. So definitely things we want to explore, and having that kind of gameplay balance will be important to work out with the designers. As far as manufacture, that would also be really neat. It hopefully will allow players to produce medicines and whatever drugs other than just kind of illegal medicines that you take to feel good. Yeah. That you shouldn't do. Don't do it.
Reek or Rec? What do you Reek?
Reek.
Reek. Let's go Reek.
Game of Thrones.
Reek. All right. Question for writers from Reek. In the PU, players will likely gain renown infamy by engaging in many activities. Will the game world recognize and convey the renown infamy of players by using narratives, missions, and NPC conversations interactions throughout the verse? I think, again, as we kind of like start to dig into how all this is going to play out, the reputation system will hopefully be able to have NPCs respond to players based on how their reputation in the universe. That's kind of the ideal behind it. So yeah, I think the way NPCs treat you, when it comes to maybe, I'm not sure, yet. That's something we had to figure out. But maybe certain missions will become available to you if you have a certain reputation, or if you have a certain renown that might open a few extra things for you. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see once we dig into it how we can integrate kind of like the lore that you're building around yourself into actual missions for you.
Yeah, and with 2.0 coming online, we're starting to work with designers to dip our toes into kind of the mission structure and think about how your reputation might tie into that. And I think it'll be nice if we can get it to a way where NPCs aren't omniscient. Like, there wouldn't be a reason why a shopkeeper would know on site that you're a world-class bounty hunter. He's not connected to that world, so he wouldn't be cued into that. Maybe, so we would, hopefully the reputation will make sense that, all right, maybe an advocacy agent would recognize you if you have a strong reputation as an outlaw, and that would tie in, or other outlaws would recognize you on site and kind of respect you and open up doors for that way. But like a random NPC maybe wouldn't so much know on site. So kind of figuring out that balance, and because there is so many different layers of like winding through different elements, that it'll be important to kind of minimize the options while maximizing how much impact they have. So kind of less is more kind of thinking. So really kind of trying to cue in on that will be something we look to do. Sailor67 asks, are there plans for including major player-driven events like Operation Pitchfork is attempting in the lore? If so, can they impact the major story arcs you are writing or just news stories? We're really hopeful that we'll be able to take player-influenced events and incorporate it into the lore. That's kind of one of the things we're really excited about that Chris has talked about before, that, if you are the player who kills the Dread Pirate Roberts, you'll be going down in history as that person who did that. And so if enough players get together and have a major impact or cut off resources and stuff, we're hopefully going to be working to monitor the game, see what's happening, and respond with not only with our kind of regular content updates that we're hoping to have, but as well as in the Galactopedia and whatever news stories and lore posts that we keep on going, to be able to look at what's happening in real time in the game and have that influence us, so that it'll be a conversation almost between the developers and the players as they're playing, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, I mean the message boards are gonna blow up anyways when the players get to start doing something or organizing. So it's gonna be pretty obvious what's going on in a lot of locations for us. So I think it's going to be really awesome to be able to tap into that and to use the potential for that to maybe open up aspects of the story or of the world that we didn't quite think of at first, or to do certain things. So yeah, I think that'll be a really fun part of the game, to be able to try to integrate what you guys are doing into some of the ideas we have and see how it manifests.
Yeah, it'll just come down to kind of really streamlining the process and trying to focus on remaining agile and how we can create this content to make sure they do it. So a lot of questions remain on exactly how that's going to work, but it's something that we're aspiring to. So hopefully.
Yeah, that's great. Doc Andy asks, as a scientist, I have to ask, you mentioned collaborations with actual scientists before. Could you share something about that process? In which parts they were involved? Did you use their input to explain your more fantasy elements, or did you change the lore to accommodate the science? How do you keep the balance between believable scientific explanation and enjoyable, interesting fantasy?
They might, Jock. They might.
Recently, when we did work on the star map, we definitely did a talk to a handful of astrophysicists to get some input on the actual scientific breakdown of certain systems, of habitable zones, of what kind of planet could end up where based on which kind of star, and details like that are very important for us, so that there is a scientific backbone to the star map, to what you're going to see, and how that it might affect, the habitability of certain worlds or not to a certain degree. So it's I know Will has actually gone out and tracked down some young astrophysicists willing to help us kind of like vet all these systems, and it's definitely a process we're in the middle of to make sure that everything is it has a scientific footing to it. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's a neat organization called I'm gonna mess up this name, but the Science and Entertainment Exchange, which specializes in hooking up people who work in the entertainment industry with scientists who donate their time to give scientific advice just out of the sheer desire to make entertainment more scientifically accurate. So we worked a little bit with them as well as contacting people on our own. And it's a real kind of fun balance between accuracy and the fantasy elements of it. And a lot of times it just comes down to, does it feel right? Which is kind of a thing when you're striking that balance between what is fun, because sometimes real hard science facts can either be like stop you from doing something that would otherwise be really fun, or it can also be so crazy that it doesn't feel right when you hear it. Like there's this weird thing where if you get too accurate and it goes against what people's common expectations are, and so you have to say, like, all right, even if this is true, it's going to really confuse people to do it that way. And then you're like, and then you're going to have to explain to a lot of people, oh, but this is scientifically accurate, even though it feels very wrong. So there's all these things that it's been kind of a fun process to work with them, and yeah, hopefully we'll be releasing further updates on the star map where we get to unveil some more of the hard numbers that we're using in the background so that you can actually see exact distances and stuff. And then, those are still going to be changed and fleshed out more as we talk more with the designers and we actually get ships flying in more and more of these systems. We're going to have to make further adjustments. So a lot of back and forth and give and take on that. Gerald Evans asks, is there anything about underground racing being written into the lore? With the Armada package being as much of a hit as it was, my org is looking to start an underground circuit of Capital Ship Cup racing, where Idris and larger ships are the timing rings and that the racers pass through to mark progress around a course. I had the idea when I saw the first video of Star Citizen featuring the Bengal, and then the Top Gun homage sealed it. After seeing the hangar control room in the CitizenCon Morrow tour, I realized that tracking which ships come and go might not only be simple, but even recorded on the ship's log. So underground racing is something that we have worked into the lore, and it's also something that'd be really fun to provide the tools for players to set up on themselves, being able to kind of create their own race courses. And I've had a couple conversations with design, so it's something that's interesting and maybe we'll be able to do. We still have to work out some of the details of it. It's a really fun idea of using capital ships that way as kind of the rings to race through, so that was pretty neat. I'm not sure if the ships themselves would allow that, but it's a cool idea.
Yeah.
And also like different forms of racing too, like we've talked about, right now most of the racing is done with very fast ships, but getting in like the larger ships, imagine like a couple Hull E's like racing around a course, like that would be really funny. And like some of the systems we've established lore for.
Yeah, there's the Able Baker Challenge, which takes place in the Baker system, which is right now in the lore canon, the kind of the most famous kind of underground race in the verse. But that said, it doesn't mean it's the only one, and it doesn't mean that if a really cool race is somehow put together by an org or by you guys that it wouldn't kind of raise in prominence. So it's definitely something that we know is out there. NASCAR here in the United States started off as bootleggers, kind of just trying to run away from cops, and that turned into a race. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the course of the making of the game that you guys find some cool things to be able to do something similar, to modify your ships, or to different courses, or maybe even parts of the universe. I know we're conscious of planets and where asteroid belts are, stuff like that, and once all those get fleshed out and you get actually see them in the game, you may find that some places that were never intended to be a race course actually make for really cool race courses. So we're very excited to see you guys get out there and do something like that. Next question is from Aragorn BH. What are the chances that players will get to read log entries made by pilots who have been involved in important Star Citizen lore events? I mean, it's yes, basically. There already is a lore series called Discovered, which you can find a handful already on the RSI website, that are kind of stories of famous expeditions, famous explorers that have discovered jump points or new worlds or different things like that. So we're already starting to build a little bit of that in. We definitely have more planned.
And it could be the kind of thing that maybe you're discovering a wreck and finding that log, and you're the one who gives it to the Ark to be stored there. I would imagine that hopefully, the Ark would have records of this kind as well, the more important historical ones, which would be interesting to explore. So it'll all be really just about how much time and content we can create.
Yeah.
But it'd be really fun to have. So.
Yeah, and I know just me personally, and I know Dave and Will does this too, but there is such a long history that we have here that if you're rereading some of the lore and you find a moment that's really cool, you're like, oh, that would be something good to kind of backlog for later. I definitely have a list of moments in history that we can go back to and maybe delve into further. And as Will said, it's just a matter of time management at this point and being able to allocate our resources to the best possible places. But it's definitely something on our mind, and you can expect plenty of logs out there explaining some.
And we floated the idea too, as well as about making some more important historical moments playable as well, with some kind of special mission packs or something like that. So that might be really fun if we end up being able to do that. So.
Be very cool.
From Landscaper, will there be book, newspaper, blogs in game? I envision pulling up an app on the MobiGlass and browsing my collection of magazines, selecting a rare classic book, or catching up on the news and sports. Maybe you'll use this as a way to feed us lore. Totally, like kind of tying into the last question as well, which is why I chose both of them. It's something we started to seed in a little bit already with 2.0. What we have coming up is having this content that you'll be able to find and read, as well as sit back and kind of have random material. It takes a fair chunk of effort to create these assets. Like, I was always really impressed playing in kind of the Bethesda games where they have the full books you can read, and it's something I thought was really neat. So we'll have to see how much of something like that we can do. I mean, one of the neat things we have is that so many of you out there are already generating a ton of really cool content. So maybe it's kind of thing where we could look into doing a call for, magazine articles for this one kind of magazine and take backer submissions for that to feature in game. Could be really fun, but we'd have to figure all that out.
Yeah, it's definitely every day it's great to come in and look at the message boards and see some of the role playing you guys are doing, because it's really inspiring, and it's really great to see your own personal spin on the world that's being built. So it's just a matter of being able to. It's a different matter of time relocation, because to have to go through and curate and to make sure that the stuff you're putting in would fall into lore will also take a little bit of work. But I think it would be very cool, and I think something that you guys would respond to well. So yeah, that's hopefully down the road at some point. But there'll definitely be especially all the Spectrum dispatches you'll probably be able to find there too. So plenty of content for you to go through. Yeah,
and hats off for me as well for. In the recent news updates and stuff, it's just been absolutely awesome reading your guys' in-lore responses. So much fun. Really enjoy it. So,
next question is from Chifrey. For us explorers out there and those who like to live in the edge of the galaxy, how will new systems be handled by lore writers? Will you already have lore written up for these systems and just copy and paste them after X time passes? Or will player interaction in the system dictate how the lore is written for it? When we're ready to release new systems to you guys, we will definitely have a pretty, at the beginning, a firm idea of kind of any lore that's behind that to a certain degree, if there's any secret places, or if it was maybe formerly habitated or not, or visited by a different species. We'll probably have, at least for the beginning, a good idea of that. But I think where the system goes from there, I think will depend a lot on who finds it and how they present it. Some people may want to keep the system for themselves, for their org, for their pirate group, and use it as some kind of like black market hub for certain things. Others may just turn around the information, give it to the UEE, sell it off, and then kind of invite people in. So there's definitely going to be an element where you, the players, will be able to help determine it. If there's any kind of important story, points that we want to get across there, that's something I think we will probably have figured out before you get to it.
Yeah, I mean, until we have procedural generation of systems up and running, it's all going to be lovingly handcrafted, which means, we'll work with design and talk to them and come up with an idea for the systems. And it'll be definitely interesting to have these systems that have had zero human interaction, or at least probably if that's like mysterious human interaction. I don't know, like there's interesting things we could do where you find remnants of an old civilization of humans that you didn't know had been there. Anyway, but it's going off. But so like that'll be very different than a lot of the kind of system lore we've been developing. It's like, all right, what has the impact of humans been on this system? But starting in fresh, it means the backers will get to have a say in all those possible directions of what ends up winning out, or how that planet is either terraformed or not, or who are the settlers that take a ride on your Starliner out to that system. So it'll be really cool to see.
Yeah, I fully expect that we might have an idea for what a system is going to be, and then you guys will get in there and do something to it that we just never expected. That's going to be kind of fun, I think.
Mantis78 asks, how will alien language barriers be handled in the PU? Will our characters automatically understand alien languages, or will we need a translator, NPC, or some sort of device that can be purchased in-game? Can languages be learned by the character? So this is something that we've had initial talks on, and as we're continuing to work with the linguists to develop the language, we're still kind of sorting out exactly how it's going to work in-game. We have a couple ideas so far. One of them is that your mobiGlas will come with a standard, really rough translator that can translate stuff in real time for you, but it wouldn't be able to capture all the full nuance of a native speaker. So it would be that you're getting the general idea of what an alien is saying in their language, but you wouldn't be able to fully pick up on everything, because we want to reward players who take the time. We're going through all the effort of making these languages real languages and speakable, so we want to reward players who take the time to actually learn them, because that's awesome. You asked if characters would be able to learn languages, and kind of I think the current direction might be that there won't be like a thing you can buy where your character speaks Banu. If you want your character to speak Banu, you're going to have to learn Banu yourself. And what you might be able to buy is an NPC who can translate for you, or a better translator for your mobiGlas or something like that, some kind of in-game mechanic, but making their different layers of interactions with it. But yeah, if you want to learn that language, you're going to have to learn that language.
Yeah, so if you're a trader who's going to Xi'an territory a lot, it'll definitely benefit you to get a little bit more in detail with that, because you might be able to pick up on small hints or small phrasing things that might lead you in a different direction than just someone who just wanders in there for the first time will be able to get. So
yeah. So org, start drawing straws on who's going to have to learn those languages. But hopefully we'll have more information on that as we continue to develop.
Yeah, it's definitely something we're thinking of, though.
Cool. Well, that makes 10 questions. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to our very not set in stone and unconcrete kind of just feelings more than answers.
Yeah, our emotions.
So we feel things might work out. And a really big thank you once again to you subscribers for making this possible, and for everyone who believes in Star Citizen and is helping us bring the game to life.
Thank you, backers. Appreciate it. Always fun answering your questions, and we'll see you next time around the verse.
No. See you around 10-4. This is a different show.
What? This isn't around the verse?
You can't use that here.
I can't use that?
It's copyright. Just we're talking about that, yeah.
All right. Well, that was, I don't know, filler, a little bit of filler. Had some interesting questions for those of you interested in the lore, so I encourage you, if you caught part of that episode, to go back and watch it. It's only 25 minutes long or so. So that's what we had. That is it. And I am now obligated to go down and help make dinner, so I will see you guys a little bit later tonight. Be sure to tune in as we talk about a little bit more about what other games we're going to be playing this month, as well as theory crafting about 2.0, when it's going to happen, what we're going to do, what you're going to do, and all the other goodies out there. So, again, we'll see you a little bit later. Remember, 10 p.m. CST every night of the week. except for, well, it might actually change on the weekends, but 10 p.m. CST for right now. I'll let you know schedule updates, and we'll see you this evening. Later.